Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, here is the agenda for today. So we're going to discuss who this game is more important for, Georgia or Clemson, who has the edge at quarterback. We'll give the reasons why each team might lose. And then finally at the end, of course, we'll make our against the spread picks. But before all of that, we just have a quick announcement, Trey.
Yeah, we as a podcast, the College Football Bros, are doing an ESPN Pick'em League against the spread. If you search the group name College Football Bros, you would find it. But you can also follow us on Twitter at CFB Bros. We'll make a link to this league in our pinned tweet, or you can click the link in the description below.
All right, that'll be fun this year. But let's get to this game here. So is it a more important game for Georgia or Clemson? What do you think, Trey?
I say it's more important for Georgia. Clemson has a much easier road after this game, and Dabo doesn't need it at all to help his legacy. We know that. Georgia, on the other hand, would be facing a more of an uphill battle the rest of the way. But even just aside from this year alone, it would really help the narrative on the Georgia program and Kirby Smart to get a win like this. A lot of people say Georgia is great, but always come up short on the big stage. This game would validate, their program and then maybe their offense being good enough and the trajectory that Georgia is on.
Yeah, I totally agree that I think it's more important for Georgia, and we talked about it in a previous podcast that, no two-loss team has ever made the playoff. So, you really can only have one loss. And Clemson, whether or not they lose this game, they'll still like their chances of going undefeated in the ACC. So if Georgia loses this one, it's going to be hard-pressed for them to finish with just one loss running through the SEC. So I just think it's kind of common sense here. Georgia can't drop it. They really need it. It's a bigger loss for them.
It's bigger. I agree. It's a bigger game for Georgia.
Yeah.
All right. Now to the game itself. Who has the advantage at quarterback, Georgia or Clemson?
This is a tough one here because I know I like both quarterbacks, but I'm going to give the edge to Clemson. DJ Uiagalelei I think he's just a little more talented player. He did have those two games last year where he came in and started and did really, really well. He put up big numbers, and one of those games was at Notre Dame, a playoff team. He put up huge numbers against them. So if he didn't have those two games, of course, sure, I'd probably lean towards JT Daniels, but I think those two games are really important for his development going into this year. I think you kind of know what you're going to get, and I think he knows at least what it's like to play at the collegiate level. So I like JT Daniels. I think he's going to do just fine this year, to do really well, but Uiagalelei is really good.
I slightly prefer DJ Uiagalelei too. He's not an amazing runner, of course. Like, that's not a massive part of his game, but compared to JT Daniels, I'd say he's an amazing runner.
Yes,
So that's one element that he has, and we've just never seen him struggle. I know we've only seen him in 2 games, but that was as a true freshman. So it's reasonable to think that he could take a big jump forward in year 2 here. So obviously JT Daniels could take a jump forward in year 2 in the Todd Monken system, but slightly prefer DJ.
It is very narrow, but I'm going to go with JT Daniels. In this particular game, he might be able to lean on the rush offense. It looks to be slightly better than Clemson's at this moment, and so maybe it won't solely be on his shoulders.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's move on to what happens if Clemson loses this game. It will be because of what?
So I'm going to say it's because their offensive line isn't able to create any holes in the running game. The O-line, of course, was, you could say, their weakness last year. Even with Travis Etienne, the yards per carry wasn't great. They weren't creating a lot of holes on that O-line like they had been even in previous years. So, and they're having issues at center in camp. Dabo Swinney, I think, has said that there might be multiple players playing center on Saturday, which is kind of a concern, especially going up against a great front seven, great interior defensive line for Georgia. So I think it would be the O-line concerns.
Yeah, I was just saying that it would be because they weren't able to generate enough offense. Obviously, Georgia's D-line and secondary would be a major reason as to why. But there's also just a lot of unproven talent at running back with ETN gone and at receiver. Like Justin Ross is back, but is he a shadow of himself? Will those young blue chip receivers be up to the challenge right away in week 1? The jury's out right now.
Completely agree, especially with Michael there about the ground game. Just not sure they'll be able to get it going. So definitely think that would be it.
Okay, going to the other side of the ball. If Georgia loses this game, it will be because blank. What do you think, Ryan?
I would think it was just because they weren't able to handle Clemson's front seven. I think this Clemson's front seven is the best pass rushing defensive line in the country, in my opinion. And JT Daniels, as Michael kind of mentioned, isn't exactly a speedster with his feet. So I think there's certainly a possibility that Georgia could have a hard time dealing with that front seven and kind of keeping JT Daniels upright.
Yeah, I think it would be because what you just said, Clemson stymies that Georgia run game, and then it ends up solely being on the shoulders of JT Daniels. Just that ridiculous D-line talent that they have. But if Georgia's able to run the ball, I think they'll win.
And we agree. It's the same. I feel like it's the same on both sides.
Yeah.
The offensive line going up against a great front seven. So maybe that leads you to think this game could go under the total, but we will see. But I agree with your guys' analysis there.
All right, so ultimately, what's your against the spread pick? We got Clemson -3.
So I like Clemson. I think they have fewer question marks overall as a team, and of course, better health. I love how much experience they return, particularly on defense. I think they have the best defensive line in the country, which we've already talked about a lot. With Georgia, the cornerback room had a lot of turnover this offseason. They did add Darian Kendrick from Clemson, but still, I think that position is something to watch out for in week 1, that secondary. And they might be without one of their top transfers in that secondary, Tyke Smith. So with that and with the receiving core for Georgia missing a lot of pieces, Eric Gilbert, of course, not going to play. Dominique Blaylock's injured. Of course, George Pickens hurt. So there's just I don't know. They did have some depth there, but it's going to be tested now.
Yeah, I hear you. There's definitely some concerns. I'm going to take the points with Georgia here, though. I think Georgia's defense is going to hold Clemson's ground game in check, like Michael kind of mentioned earlier. Well, I guess we all kind of did. But and I think the Tigers are going to have to really rely on Uiagalelei to really get it going through the air, which, I think they'll be able to do at times. He's a really talented quarterback, and as Michael mentioned, Georgia may have some concerns there in the secondary. But I still think they'll be able to do a good job against that Clemson offense. But it's hard to separate these two teams. I think they're really going to be closely contested. So I see it coming down to the wire. I don't see a ton of points. So I'm taking Georgia.
Yeah, I've waffled pretty much all offseason on this one, so I'm just going to take the 3 points and ride with Georgia. I think their front seven will do enough to slow down Clemson, and I think that Georgia's offensive balance will push them to the cover.
Yeah, and I brought this up. We also do an audio podcast every week where we break down all the big games of the upcoming week, so be sure to subscribe to our podcast. There's links in the description below, but I brought up the fact that who cares who we're picking in this game? Like, it's just going to be so fun to watch, and it's just awesome. It's week 1. The fans are going to be there. It sort of feels like a real season this year, so pretty cool. Yep. But that'll do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. Let us know your pick against the spread in this game. We would like to hear, especially Georgia and Clemson fans, sound off in the comments and give us more of an insider's perspective as far as diehard fans' thoughts on the game. And we'll be down commenting in the comments with you. Too many comments. Bye.
Yes.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.